Meanwhile, some sobering news from Justice Department spokeswoman Mindy Tucker, who tells reporters that the #1 goal for law enforcement officials this week is to apprehend individuals believed to still be at large in the United States who are suspected of having been involved in Tuesday's attack, including a man who's already been arrested at John F. Kennedy Airport who was found to have a phony pilot's license, and 2 men detained in Texas who have since been transferred to New York who were discovered with large sums of cash, box cutters, and other items that suggest not only were they involved in Tuesday's attack, but may have been planning further attacks on the United States. Law enforcement authorities telling ABC News that they believe that in addition to those individuals who have since been apprehended, there are suspected individuals still at large in the United States.
The number of people in custody under sealed material witness warrants has climbed to 4, and sources say more may soon be arrested as well. Federal authorities caution, however, that they are not certain any of these people may actually be charged with Tuesday's attack. Some, it appears, are simply being detained because they could only be held for 72 hours under immigration law, and agents wanted to question them further. The real manhunt is on for what is described as a handful of colleagues of the hijackers who also have pilot training. Officials say there is clear and credible evidence that that small cell is still in the United States, and therefore they consider the level of a threat for another attack to be high. Finding those individuals is our #1 priority, said one official. To that end, they have asked for the records from all 1,600 of the nation's flight training schools. In addition, another 155 individuals are on a red alert watch list distributed to all law enforcement agencies and civilian airlines. Some of these people, we are told, had tickets to fly on September 11th and did not show up.
Several people are being held for questioning in connection with last week's terrorist attacks on the U.S. A man with a fake pilot's license arrested at JFK Airport in New York is now being questioned, and a man who was detained at Toronto's Pearson Airport after the attacks has been handed over to the FBI. NBC News reports the FBI is also focusing on 2 men who were taken off an Amtrak train in Texas the day after the attacks. Investigators say the men were on a flight from Newark Airport in the morning of the attacks.
Now, in terms of the investigation itself, the Justice Department is now expanding the number of people that are being held on what are called material witness warrants. Now, we're going to be hearing a lot about this term in the coming days. It allows federal authorities to hold someone in custody. It's a court order, and it allows interrogators to continue to question people, and generally it's used for people that the FBI believes have information that could be helpful to the investigation, but that letting them go or just stay home might cause them to flee. So the number of people in this category is already up to about half a dozen and probably will rise today and continue to rise in the coming days. There's a separate category of people who are being held by the Immigration Service. As the FBI questions people who might have any knowledge about this, they discover that their visas are expired or they have other reasons to hold them. And there's at least 24 people in that category.
But we're going to smoke them out. And we're adjusting our thinking to the new type of enemy. These are terrorists that have no borders. There's an old poster out west, as I recall, that said, "Wanted, dead or alive."
Dan, this morning the Justice Department raised to 175 the number of people whose names have been entered into police computers, airline, all border, and INS checkpoints. These are people that the FBI wants to talk to right now in the most serious tones that you can imagine. They have questions for them about their recent travel. They have questions about their associations. But thus far we have only 3 people, I believe, now under material witness warrants, and these people may or may not end up being charged. Dan, in short, I sense that they have now gone through a vast wealth of leads in this case, but are settling in for the long haul. I don't look for any criminal charges in the immediate future, Dan.
We have, in the course of questioning a number of individuals throughout the country, we have 49 individuals who are currently being detained by the Immigration Service because of some concerns about the status of those individuals in the country.
Director, how many people have you arrested on material witness warrants or other ones?
I cannot and will not give you the total numbers on material witness warrants. It suffices to say that there are a number of material witness warrants that have been issued They are sealed in most cases, and I cannot give you direct numbers. Yes, sir.
Director, why can't you give us direct numbers?
Under seal. A number of the warrants are under seal. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you at least characterize their level of cooperation at this point? The people that you've detained and also the people who are in INS custody. If you're talking to them and if they've been providing valuable information.
Well, it's hard to generalize. There are individuals cooperating, yes. There are a number of individuals that are not cooperating.
With the FBI additionally sealing off how many material witnesses they have arrested or held, now disables any other efforts for reporters to follow up on what exactly happened to our JFK pilot, with an address linked to an Osama bin Laden brother in Boston as the probable suspect in the attempt to hijack Flight 23. And since we are now at the final day of Understanding 9/11, a television news archive near 1 p.m., no other network news carries on further detailing any of the material witnesses or INS suspects detained. Only but commentary from Dan Abrams of MSNBC, with his in-studio experts giving their best assumption how the investigation of 9/11 is being handled with the dragnet detainment of unspecified suspects.
The Attorney General and the Director of the FBI also giving us some numbers as to the progress of that investigation. Let's take a look. They say they've had 47,000 tips on their website, 7,800 from the phone calls to the hotline. 26,000 tips have been developed by the FBI field office, 49 people detained by the INS, and at least 2 as material witnesses. Now, I say at least 2 because right now they're saying they are not going to disclose how many people have been arrested under what are called material witness arrest warrants. We do know that 2 people had been arrested using a material arrest warrant as the reason. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And this may be the most important part so far. 49 people have been detained in connection with the case by the INS. Now, we don't know exactly how many have been arrested, but we do know that at least 2 are being held as material witnesses, meaning they were arrested and are being questioned or are going to be questioned by the FBI and others. And so I want to talk about what this means, what they can get, what they're hoping to get from these people. Lise Wheel joins us now from Seattle. She's a former federal prosecutor and law professor at the University of Washington. And from Los Angeles, Rick Hahn is a former FBI supervisor and terrorism expert. Lise, you get someone in there. I mean, you've dealt with terrorism cases, too. You get someone in there who's a material witness. And I think some people are going to say, look, if this is someone who knows something or may have been involved in some way, you're dealing with people who are willing to kill themselves. How are they going to be able to actually get information from these people?
Well, what they've got to try to do is say, look, this is your time to talk now, because others are talking and giving things up, as we heard today the FBI director saying that some were cooperating. So it's time to say to these material witnesses, this is your chance to cooperate now and get out of this, or you're going to be sitting in a jail forever. But that's right, they are martyrs, or suspected anyway of being martyrs, and it's going to be very difficult to wear that hard glove and actually get something from them.
Well, Heather Lester, we know that 49 people are in detention, being detained by the INS, in addition to at least 2 who have been arrested on what are called material witness warrants. We don't know how many more, both the FBI and the Justice Department not wanting to be that specific about numbers with regard to arrests. The president saying that we are going to have to smoke these people out here in the country. How can that be done? They're already here.
Well, you're absolutely right. Several of them are here. However, the investigation as it's going along is obviously getting some cooperation from some of these people that are in custody. And through that cooperation and through telephone records, credit card records, banking records, I think we're identifying, the FBI is identifying potential co-conspirators, and in so doing, I think we'll continue to see more and more people going into custody and more material witnesses or material witness warrants issued.
And that's pretty much it when it comes to Understanding 9/11, a television news archive, archive.org, as the collection is only labeled as being between September 11th and 17th, 2001. It's also the end for us in at least attempting to trail the suspects from JFK and LaGuardia Airport on September 13th, as clearly they've done everything they can to silence those attempts, at least with the last count of material witnesses from what we know separate from the minimum of CBS's Jim Stewart, is only 4. But this is not the end of what we need to examine in at least confirming other targeted flights for hijackings on September 11th or 13th, in that these arrests are under the presumption of such.